Hello and welcome back to the Pain Free for Life podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rob Vanbergen, and today I'm going to be talking to Professor Jeralyn Glass. Jeralyn is a leader in the field of sound healing using crystal alchemy singing bowls. She's an internationally acclaimed singer, professor, and musician who's been sharing the gift of music medicine with the world for decades. Jeralyn offers a unique alchemical blend of classical music, meditation, and high vibrational sound, which helps people facilitate healing and transformation through the power of music and sacred frequencies that nourish our bodies, connect us with our hearts, and awaken our consciousness. Jeralyn began her career on Broadway as the youngest cast member in the 25th anniversary revival of My Fair Lady, starring Rex Harrison. Her singing expanded to include the opera and concert stages of the world, where she performed early Baroque music to modern composers and was praised as a Mozart singer of the first order. She sang the national anthem for over 18,000 people in her hometown of Los Angeles and has written and sung tributes to star athletes and European presidents. Jeralyn created Kids for Kids World Foundation in Germany, a charitable organization which she led for 10 years, training and presenting musical theater performances by and for young people. The proceeds in turn funded a successful music therapy program for youth. The course of her life shifted dramatically in 2015 with the loss of her only child. Sound and energy medicine became the path for her own journey through grief and inspired her active participation with the cancer support community, the Compassionate Friends, veterans organizations, and Maria Shriver's Women and Alzheimer's movement. Passionate about music and sound vibration as tools of self-discovery and healing, Jeralyn founded Crystal Cadence, home of the Los Angeles Crystal Tones Singing Bowl Temple, where she also teaches the internationally renowned sacred science of sound crystal alchemy, sound healing trainings, offers mentorships, transformational voice, and personalized masterful consultations, choosing your alchemy singing bowls. Now, Jeralyn and I discuss her journey in learning and embracing the skills and power of music, the capacity of music and sound for healing, and some tips for you to incorporate music and sound into your healing regimen. And we discuss the unique power of crystal alchemy singing bowls. We even do a demo of them towards the end of the episode so everyone can experience what they're like, the benefits you can receive from them, see how I reacted to them, and more. All of this combines to make an episode that you really don't want to miss.
Welcome back to Pain Free for Life, where we share how to successfully overcome all kinds of chronic and extreme conditions to live happy, productive, pain-free lives forever. And now, here's your host, co-founder, and board-certified holistic healthcare practitioner, Dr. Rob Vanbergen.
All right, Jeralyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Rob.
So I'm really excited today. This is, we at Pain Free for Life, we work a lot with frequency medicine. And of course, frequency comes in many forms, and that includes music. Now, music and sound, this is something that we don't really explore too much, but I know that is your specialty. So how did you discover the power of music?
Great question. So I knew from the time I was a little girl, I remember very distinctly about age 4, twirling in front of our porch, holding onto a post and twirling around and singing and moving. And I heard a vibrational voice that said, singing will be your life's path, from the time I was very young. So that's what happened. And I ended up going to New York at a young age. And then I got a Broadway contract, and then I moved into classical music. So I've had the blessing to live in New York and experience that, and then to live in Europe and sing in many different languages all over the world. So I knew that, first of all, using your voice as the human instrument, that there is nothing like that, and that we can amplify through sound our own instrument. And music has been a part of my life from the time I can remember.
That's beautiful. What was your favorite? I mean, you've been all over. What was your favorite part of your music career?
Gosh, in Europe, I was known as the jump-in queen. And that meant that if somebody was sick at the last minute, they would call Jeralyn, and I provided that I had done the role, but there were occasions when I hadn't, and I had to learn a role within a very short period of time on my feet with the score, doing the staging. So I loved that aspect of what it means to be this human instrument, to vibrate, as I say, like at the frequency of trust and of love and being present, and then to create. So I think music, offers us that ability to be present, be in the moment, and allow vibration to do its thing.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, so being a professional singer all of your adult life and later becoming a professor as well, how has this sound and this music continued to kind of shape your life?
Well, I think I'm going to be involved in something in Washington, D.C. next week that's a big symposium on music as medicine. And I think what I discovered in my own life, but especially 8 years ago, I lost my beloved son, my only child, who was 19, and music actually became my medicine. And, I tried traditional therapy, and, there was a lot of talking about it, Dr. Rob, hours and hours per week, but it didn't move it. And, our talking and trying to go back and relive, and could I have changed anything? I found that sound took me into that place where there are no words, and sound was that medium, that medicine that actually helped to, first of all, to hold me in a safe space that I could actually feel the grief, just actually feel it. And then in the process of feeling it, you can truly begin to heal it. And that's exactly what has happened in my life.
Yeah. And I can see that the music as medicine is it's a great topic sentence for sure. It really speaks to a lot of what we can do, but trauma and music are things I think people use a lot, but they don't really realize they do, right? People even listening to sad songs during a breakup, and it's a way of processing these things. But sound, music, all of these things as a frequency, as a way that, as you say, we vibrate, we can output this healing as well as kind of bringing it into ourselves. How do you feel it kind of works in that capacity for, you can bring sound to other people, right? So if you are singing, do you feel like that is helping heal people as well? Like your vibrations that you're putting out there are helping in that way?
For sure. If you think, so like when I'm teaching, I teach over 120 hours of trainings, especially using, first of all, tuning the human instrument and then using the crystal alchemy singing bowls. But we talk about the importance of tuning the human heart, because we are the unique vibratory vessel of sound. We're crystalline in structure, our bones, our blood. And so there's a certain kind of vibration that is produced, for example, when we sing or when we play the crystal bowls and train with them. And I think what I've really learned now using music as a medicine, as a healing modality, is that sound and music is something that every human being understands, no matter what culture, no matter what language you speak. We use it to celebrate birth. We use it to honor the passing. We use it in marriages, etc. All the important things in our lives are accompanied by music. And I think what I discovered is that music gives the thinking mind something to focus on. And suddenly the mind is like, oh, that's music. Like you said about the sad song or whatever, and suddenly you're crying, and, it is helping to have you release feelings that maybe through words you couldn't release. So music stills the mind. And in that moment, you drop deep inside yourself and you begin to feel the authentic feelings that are really going on inside of us. And so many of us, we push it away, or we deem it too big or too hard to feel. But music will create that safe space where suddenly, without recognize it, you're crying, you're feeling, you're breathing, and then afterwards you feel a heck of a lot better.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think I've experienced that in my life, just with little things that seem little in the moment seem big in the moment that are little in the grand scheme of things, but how music can kind of help carry you through that. Do you think, most of the people we work with are dealing with chronic pain, chronic illness, chronic disease. Do you think that someone in chronic pain is going to perceive and receive the healing of music differently than someone that's working with emotional traumas, or does it kind of all work on the same level?
It's both. And in my experience, because I work with cancer patients, hospice patients, veterans, children, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, with all different kind of demographics. And often people will say after a sound bath experience that their back pain went away. And again, I think it has to do with pain is energy, and it's energy that gets stuck in the body in whatever way. And if you think about our instrument as being an orchestra, and all our different organs and places in our body are members of that orchestra. And if something is out of tune, we need to bring it back into tune and harmonize it. So sometimes simply certain sounds, or like, for example, I'm working with cancer patients, and I'll play a certain note, and that note will actually correspond to where they have had their chemo, where they have had their cancer. And they'll go, wow, I'm blown away that feels so much more expansive. Or, I mean, I think in terms of medicine, in terms of pain, there really is no one size fits all. Yeah. I think it's so individual because pain is comprised of, yes, definitely physical things. Sometimes there's emotional components underneath it. There's thoughts or beliefs, a system that's underneath it. There's generational patterning that's underneath it. But I do know that sound has the ability to go in and move energy and move blockages. And I have seen it in my own self and in many, many others, relieve pain.
Yeah, no, and you hit it right on the nose. That there's no such thing as one size fits all treatments, medicine. Everyone's different. And we do see that too. Like people with chronic pain, a lot of them, they develop emotional traumas from the chronic pain, or they have the emotional trauma that helped start that chronic pain. And so it is all interconnected, and we definitely have to look at all of those pieces. So for someone that's not familiar with the concept of sound healing, music medicine, how would you describe it? It's like, because it seems like it can involve so many different things and so many different avenues.
It certainly does. So, for example, and it's become very, very popular because I think as human beings, we are looking for ways to bring ourselves back to wholeness. And yes, of course, it's easy to take a pill or to, do something like that. But I don't believe that I know in my own experience, it would not really cure the cause.
Yeah.
We need to be able to have the courage to go deep inside and examine and to look and to breathe and to feel. And so, it can be tuning forks. It can be the Himalayan metal bowls. It can be guitar. It can be, there's an instrument called a monochord that's just one or two notes that are on a stringed instrument. I mean, there's many ways to use music as a medicine. I'm thinking of dear friend and colleague, Dr. Daniel Levitin, who wrote This Is Your Brain on Music, has said that the most important thing in music medicine is that you can't necessarily say, okay, let's listen to some Baroque music, let's listen to some Bach, or let's listen to some Handel. That's normally with old instruments tuned to 432 hertz. It's very grounding and calming. No, it's the music that you love. So if you love Fly Me to the Moon and you put that on before you go into an operation, that's going to do much more for your body than music that somebody else chooses for you and says, well, this is the right prescription. And I think what's important to understand is we have to find what ignites us, what feels good to us. It definitely is very individualized.
I love that because I do think it's true. Like, you can look at these therapeutic frequencies that are tied to music and you can say, this is what you should be doing. But maybe that person hates classical music, right? And then it's going to make them feel like, why am I listening to this? Some people I've known love like heavy metal, that is their music and it relaxes them. And for me, that sort of thing can put me on edge, it can amp me up. And I'm like, it's a different perspective. How do we perceive things? So that's perfect. That's perfect.
We laugh about because whether you know or have heard of it, sometimes people will say, well, the 528 hertz frequencies is the tuning of love. It's really the frequency of love. And, I smile because it's like when I was nursing my son, in those beautiful, intimate moments, like, did I think, oh, wait, did I think, okay, what's 528 hertz? Because that is the tuning of love. No, I mean, it's natural what comes out of each of us. And we are a musical species. Again, and every culture has used music, to celebrate, to mourn. And it's very individualized.
Yeah. No, and it all has an impact on their bodies, right? Regardless of how you do it. Even if you just feel good after experiencing music, right? It just is. It is that way. So, how would you encourage our listeners to incorporate healing sound into their lives?
There's many different ways to do it. Again, it's finding what feels right to you. So the most natural thing to do is to use your own voice. So I am a professor of voice, but irregardless, for example, like I notice myself when I go to the dentist and I'm getting nervous, I'm going, so simply humming. Humming can help to reduce levels of cortisol, activate dopamine in the body, build leukocytes. So even our own natural hum, you do not have to be a singer, can be something, if I'm feeling concerned or worried or stressed, I really might just sit and now, if I add an intention to it, if I say, I am creating harmony and wholeness right now in my being, I calm my nervous system, whatever is, again, the languaging that feels comfortable to each person. And then I sit and hum. I take 3, 4, 5 minutes to hum. That's a wonderful way to do that. Another thing that I love to do under the shower is siren my voice. So just so you go in your lower voice up to your higher voice. So you can start. And what you're doing is you're actually tuning the strings of your human instrument. So just simply by using our own personal vibrational signature, it's free. You don't have to buy an instrument. That's one way that you can integrate it. We offer much music on our Crystal Cadence YouTube channel and on our website of crystalline sounds, some of the crystalline sounds infused with singing, infused with other instruments. So I think it's finding music that you love, just as you were saying earlier. It might be heavy metal, right? Yeah. But suddenly you feel like, wow, that helps me to release any anxiety or frustration or anger that I have and feel more peaceful afterwards. Yeah. I would encourage people to allow music to be like a spoonful of medicine in their daily lives. Any kind of music that feels good. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to touch a little bit on the Crystal Alchemy singing bowls, which I think are behind you right now. So could you explain what they do, how they influence your work? Because I think they're a fairly big part of what you do now. And then maybe we can do a demo for people so that they can hear and people that are watching even see.
Sure. So they're an instrument that I discovered 17 years ago when I was living in Europe, full in my classical music career and teaching. And I heard them when I was traveling with my mom here in the United States. And it was just like, whoa, my mind just went, that is so beautiful, those sounds. And I've heard so much music throughout my life, but there was something incredibly pristine and something that I will say in the crystalline sound that quickens and brings a clarifying focus is what I experienced. So at that point, 17 years ago, I bought 7 of them, and C, D, E, F, G, A, B were the notes. So basically a C major scale. And I brought them back to Europe where I was living and started using them for fun as an instrument. And when I was teaching singing, if somebody had a blockage in their voice, I'd ask them to use one of the bowls, choose one of them, and then they would entrain their voice with the bowl. And lo and behold, Dr. Rob, their blockage would dissipate. So that was the first experience for me of, okay, wow. Now I can say to you, they're pure quartz, and the quartz gets infused with alchemy, meaning it can get infused with emerald or amethyst or rose quartz. It can get infused with an earth element such as salt or charcoal or frankincense, a precious metal like gold or silver, or even a mineral like vanadium. And quartz, being the great amplifier, transmitter, receiver, amplifies those alchemies as you're hearing the sound. So they're unlike any other instrument that I ever heard. And I love the Himalayan singing bowls. I used to warm up before performances with one of them on my belly. But once I heard these, there was something, as I said earlier, that our bodies being crystalline in structure, we can receive the sound very easily.
Right.
Something that the body goes, that feels good, right?
So where do they originate from? Have they been in multiple cultures or?
These bowls as they are now, they're really a modern instrument. So,
Okay.
you may know that in the 1980s in Silicon Valley, they were using quartz crucibles to fire computer chips. And they had to have a vessel that could fire at high temperatures, and that was the quartz. And some of those vessels got broken and some of them remained intact. And then they recognized in the late 80s that those could be instruments and in the right hands could make beautiful sounds. And so these bowls, the Alchemy crystal bowls, were born basically in the year 2000. And they started with the actual first Alchemy bowl was infused with moldavite. And then they began using iron oxide, so they named it Grandmother. Very earth connecting, iron oxide, what our blood needs to thrive. But they've only been around pretty much a little over 20 years.
Wow.
So compared to the Himalayan bowls or the didgeridoo or even tuning forks that have been around longer than that, they're a fairly new instrument in this world of sound healing and music medicine.
Almost discovered by accident, or created by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. Okay, so do you mind giving us a little demo?
No.
I'll be quiet so I don't ruin it for everyone.
So just take a listen. I'm going to play something very deep. So you hear sounds that are very grounding. And if I would talk to you in musical terms, I would say this would be the root of the chord. And then you move into sounds that would be more centering. And then a sound that's more expansive. Right? So as we work with the sound in these instruments, it's really important to be able to have someone experience grounding, connectedness, stability, no matter if we're experiencing physical pain or emotional pain, and then to feel like you come home, right? That vibrates more in your body. And this is more above the body, up here. What we'd say more in the celestial realm. But in music, this is a chord. It's built on a root, a middle note, and a higher note, right? So just listen how you feel or what that evokes in you. Practitioner bowl that's held in your hand. So there are chiropractors that use this on the body. You can work it around the body. So this is a whole, you can tone into it. That's a very interesting tool that's held in the hand. once you get me started, Dr. Rob, I could play for a long time. It's the sound is how to say it. I always say that, music, like when you hear a great symphony, if you like that kind of music, like if you hear the Ninth of Beethoven, da da dee da dee da 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 dee da 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 da. When you hear music that evokes something in you, again, your mind quiets down. You drop into a bigger, expansive experience of yourself. We talk sometimes about we have a brain in our gut and we have a brain in our heart. We kind of don't hear those very often. We're more interested in what this one has to say. But there is so much wisdom in the brains of our heart and our gut, and music can help us sound. What you just heard can help you suddenly quicken and focus and drop into a deeper wisdom that all of us have access to.
I gotta say, hearing it myself, like I've experienced it. It was very weird. It was like I felt really relaxed, but I was also holding my breath. And so rather than breathing, it was like I realized towards the end I was really holding my breath and breathing shallow. But I closed my eyes for a bit because I was trying to not focus on what you were doing, but just listen, And yeah, it was definitely something else. I've never really felt that way before. I've done like guided meditations with people on the podcast, and usually I just feel the calmness, but that was with a very unique experience. I guess it was almost energizing, while also relaxing. Does everyone experience it differently?
They do, and I would encourage you, I didn't say it to you before, but I would encourage you to breathe deeply, because when you are breathing more shallowly, you're going to stay more in the fight or flight mode. And we want to bring the breath lower in the body. I smile when you shared what you shared, because I worked often at a wonderful medical place in Thailand, and where people were coming really for rest and rejuvenation a lot of times after burnout. And there was a high-powered executive from South Africa that worked for IBM. And he stood up and he goes, "What kind of voodoo did you do?" He said, "I have never in my life, I either fall asleep or I'm wide awake and I can't quiet my mind." He said, "But there was nothing happening in my mind. I was just experiencing the music." He said, "What'd you do? I've never felt that." And this is what we're talking about,
Yeah. Yeah. It was a bizarre feeling for sure. But yeah, no, I could see having to trigger myself to breathe deeply instead of just experiencing it. And I can get that. I know the importance of breathing deeply, but I was like, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But I feel like I'm short of breath almost from it. That's incredible. And, the first sound, it reminded me of like a church bell, which was really weird as well. And I used to go to church a lot as a kid. Like every week we were going, and I would always hear that bell. So maybe it was just evoking something from childhood as well, right?
Which is wonderful, because underneath that can be things that have been buried, or can suddenly connect you from that feeling to something in your adult life where you put the two together and you go, wow, I don't have to hold that particular thing anymore, or something lets go. I made it brief because of our time together. Do you want to experience one more minute where you breathe deeply?
Yeah, I think we should. If you're okay with that.
Yeah, so then I'm going to invite you really you want to breathe really in your lower abdomen, like below your belly button. So if you just go and out your mouth, because what we find is when you slow your breath down and deepen it, your thinking mind slows down. And this is important. So allow that breath to move deeply into your lower abdomen. You might want to even count to 4 as you inhale. Hold for 4. Release for 4. And pause for 4. like to squeeze the muscles of the pelvis floor, that you come deep into your root, and then let them release. You want to allow the sound to stabilize and ground you. So long, deep breaths deep in your belly. Simply allowing your breath to slow down. Often when we breathe in through our nose and exhale out through the mouth, that helps to slow down also. And imagining for those that are feeling pain of any kind, imagining that you breathe in light, almost as if you're breathing in liquid light. Exhaling anything heavy, painful, frustrating. Let it go in your exhale. Breathing in light. And exhaling may feel heavy or painful. Allow the sound to wrap its loving vibrations around you in an embrace. Allow the sound to help you release, to help you cleanse and purify. And to feel the unique essence that you are. Energy, sound, vibration, and light. Allowing music to be a balm, be something that soothes. And so it is. You know, and as the bowls fade out, the sound still lingers here, but it makes us recognize too that we truly are made of energy and sound vibration, and even in the stillness, the bowls are still ringing, but even in silence, we can find this place of deep relaxation and healing, comfort to our pain. sound really has the ability to take us into the place of the ineffable, the place of the sublime, the place where there are no words. And when we allow that deep grounding, our breath to slow down and allow sound to be received, I've seen so many miracles, including in my own life. How was that? Was that better?
Very calming. And I definitely experienced that. Well, first I felt my shoulders drop, which I guess they were higher, more tension, but I experienced kind of a blank mind, like there was not. So guess what? That's what you're going for. But yeah, usually my mind is always going on something, right? So getting into a state of meditation for me, I often tell my listeners that meditation for me is one of the hardest things, getting to that point where I can really separate my mind and my brain and, have there be nothing, have there be that calmness. That's not something I can achieve very easily. So that was almost instantly slipping into that blankness and that calm and the tension melting away. So very different with the breathing for sure.
Yeah. And what you just described. So for the brilliant thinkers like you, what you just described is when music can turn the volume down here in the mind, then suddenly you feel in a space of deep stillness or meditation or quiet or solitude, however you want to name it. But in that space, so much can get birthed. That's the thing. When we talk about the pineal gland and we talk about it's the windows to the soul, but there's no windows in there. It's deep inside. But when we allow ourselves to go in the silence or to go into the darkness where we don't want to go, or to go into the pain, suddenly something else can reveal. And then you discover perhaps a brilliance in you, an inspiration in you that you might not ever have found when the mind was busy, doing its regular gig,
Yeah, the mind can be one of I think our own worst enemies. And it's the same in chronic pain. We talk about this all the time, chronic pain, chronic disease. If you're thinking consistently, if you can't shut off where am I going to go? Like, how am I going to get this done? What's my pain going to be like tonight? And it ends up ruling you. So being able to find ways to switch that off, I think is key to resolving really any and everything. So,
because healing can happen in those moments.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we don't think about. You know? In those moments where we really can let go and have the courage to go into the silent space or to allow music to then hold us, that's when miracles and healing can really occur. That's where ideas and inspiration are born.
Yeah, no, I love it. It was great. So thank you for sharing that. Before we end today, though, did you want to tell us a little bit about some of your upcoming projects? I know you have an app and a documentary as well that is coming up soon.
We do. I created this one of a kind card deck, and it's the first of its kind that you actually have QR codes. This is with Hay House, so I've just finished a book with them that's coming out next summer. But you have these QR codes on the front of the card. So the idea was wherever you were in the world, you could, if you have your phone, you just put your phone on the QR code, and then you can hear the sounds of the cards.
Oh, beautiful.
So that was one of my inspirations through my son, was to bring music to everyone, wherever you are around the world, to bring the crystalline instruments. Yes, we're just preparing. We're going to be releasing an app. I think it's ready to go in January, which is called Source, from the Sacred Science of Sound, which is the educational platform that I built in 2017. And what I love about it is it joins science, spirituality, the healing power of sound, what's the structure behind it, what's the music theory. So we have, I think there's right now 19 guest presenters, pioneers in their field, starting with John Stewart Reed, who's a cymatics. He created the cymoscope from England. He's from England. Jonathan Goldman, Dr. Sue Morter, Dr. Daniel Levitin is on the app. Victor Wooten, 5-time Grammy Award-winning bass player, is on the app. So it's a real mixture of, and there's a little child on the app that leads children's meditations. But the idea was to create this place where families could join together, could do meditations together. If you wanted to learn about some of the science of sound, that you could listen there on the app. And It's where does this all intersect? What does Dr. Levitin have in common with a bass player? What does Dr. Levitin have in common with me? And what does that mean for all of us? Like, what are the commonalities that we share? And that is music and sound vibration.
Right. And as you said, it kind of transcends, it transcends culture, doesn't it? It is a thing. So it proves it connects everyone. And the documentary as well?
That's a similar kind of thing. We've just finished all the filming of that. And it's basically to give people a deeper dive in how do we deal with grief? How do we deal with pain? What is science showing us that we can do? What is music showing us that we can do? So it's different stories, again, from some of the same people that are on the app. And again, the idea was the intersection of how do all these differences come together, and how does music unify us? How is music the language of humanity? And then the book is called Sacred Vibrations, the Transformational Power of Crystalline Sound and Music. So it's filled with all kinds of stuff, different stories from my trained practitioners all around the world. It's filled with a life in music. There's a story about when I was a young student and living in Berlin during the time that Berlin was still a divided city before the wall came down, the end of the 89, and how music always connects and brings us together. And then, of course, there's a lot about the crystal singing bowls, about the history of sound, the different cultures that have used sound and how and why. And then there's a lot about musical structure. So how would you use and what makes a good sound bath? And then where are we going? What is the future of this? What can we look forward to with music medicine? And I feel, especially, this connection with my son through vibration and this understanding that happened with his path, which I never dreamed was possible, that to really understand that we are eternal beings. We are here in this human form for the period of time we're here, but our soul remains. And Dylan and myself are very, very much connected through sound vibration, and just to share the miracle of what that means. So that's a part of the book, and all the different miracles that have happened in his communications, and how sound can help us through everything that we are challenged by as human beings.
So you've got a lot of options. So if someone wants to watch something, if they want to get the book, if they want to download an app, you're kind of going to be able to access this regardless of, as you said, I guess it's connecting the world, right? And regardless of where you are, you can access all of this.
Yeah. And then if people want to learn more, so for example, I created a YouTube channel that has, for example, two 2-hour loops. So if you wanted to just put on, one is in one key and one is in another musical key, so they're very different bowls. But if you wanted to just put on soothing sounds of the Crystal Alchemy singing bowls for 2 hours, take a nap, take a bath, study, cook, whatever you're doing, just relax. There's that available for free on the YouTube channel, is Crystal Cadence by Jeralyn Glass. And then there's something that I started in 2018 called Tune Up Tuesdays. So they're also free meditations. Each one has a different set of bowls. So you come to hear, oh, wow, that's what this combination of notes tuned to 528 hertz sounds like. That's what this combination of notes tuned to 432 hertz sounds like. So every set since 2018 is different. And it's all on the YouTube channel. There's music, there's songs infused with bowls. There's a beautiful Christmas album I did with Dr. Sue Morter. There's some videos on there. And then on our website under music, there's a lot of meditations and things that you can go further deeper with. I feel very, very committed as a musician, first and foremost, to share this kind of intentional healing sound with the world now. And the more we research and discover, there will be more and more science behind music medicine. But right now, I just invite everybody to listen to music that you love, explore our YouTube channel and our website, and integrate music in your daily life. It's truly a gift for humanity.
Oh, I 100% agree. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jeralyn. This was great.
My pleasure.
To our audience, make sure you connect with Jeralyn. I'm going to include all of her information in the show notes at painfreeforlife.com/podcast. Until next time, I'm Dr. Rob Vanbergen, and you're listening to Pain Free for Life.
Thanks for listening to Pain Free for Life. Be sure to follow us, share the show with family and friends, and leave us a review on iTunes. Every time you share the show, you are helping someone take their life back from pain. Visit painfreeforlife.com for more resources, including our free guides to microcurrent, the Hache protocol and inflammation, as well as our blog and online community full of people just like you, successfully overcoming all kinds of chronic and extreme conditions to live happy, productive, pain-free lives forever. And stay tuned for the next episode of Pain Free for Life.